Once upon a time in ancient Israel, there was a great battle about to take place, one that would go down in history. Two armies stood facing each other on opposite sides of a valley, ready for war. On one side were the Israelites, God's people, and on the other side, the Philistines. But this wasn't going to be just any battle. This battle was about to be decided by a duel, and not just any duel. It was a fight between a young shepherd and a giant. Meet Goliath, a giant of a man towering over everyone around him. He was more than 9 feet tall. His armor weighed as much as a small person. His shield alone was the size of a door, and in a voice that boomed like thunder, he shouted across the valley, challenging the Israelites. But there was a problem. No one in the Israelite army was brave enough to face Goliath. Day after day, for 40 days, Goliath came out and issued his challenge, and day after day, the Israelites trembled in fear. They had no idea what to do. Now let's shift focus to a young man named David. David wasn't a soldier, he was just a shepherd, a boy who spent his days tending sheep in the fields. But David had a big heart and even bigger faith. He loved God with all his heart, and he believed God would protect him no matter what. David's brothers were soldiers in King Saul's army, and one day, his father sent him to the battlefield to bring them food and check on them. When David arrived, he overheard Goliath's challenge, and something stirred deep inside him. The soldiers laughed at David. "What are you talking about, kid?" they said. "Do you think you can fight him? He's a giant. He's destroyed whole armies. We've been here for weeks and no one dares face him." Word of David's courage soon reached King Saul. At first, Saul couldn't believe it. "You're just a boy," he said. "You can't fight a giant. He's been a warrior for years." King Saul, seeing David's confidence, finally agreed. But before the battle, he offered David his own armor. David didn't need fancy armor or weapons. All he needed was his faith and his slingshot. David walked to a nearby stream, picked up 5 smooth stones and placed them in his pouch. Then, with nothing but his slingshot and his courage, he walked toward Goliath. David took a stone, placed it in his slingshot, and with one smooth motion he hurled it toward Goliath with incredible precision. The stone struck Goliath right in the forehead, and with a loud crash, the giant fell face first to the ground. Dead. Just like that, David, the young shepherd boy, had defeated the mighty giant. The Israelites erupted in victory. What seemed impossible had just happened. David's faith in God had turned the impossible into a triumph. And the Philistines, they turned and fled, terrified by what had just taken place. And so David proved that with faith in God, even the smallest and weakest can overcome the greatest challenges. It wasn't David's size, strength, or armor that won the battle. It was his trust in God. This story reminds us that no matter how big the problem, no matter how impossible it seems, with God on our side, we can face any challenge and come out victorious.